Hi everyone. Okay, today we're going to talk about a couple things today. We're going to talk about the finishing up of the cleanse that I did because I promised you how that all went down for me and what I noticed. And I hope it will be helpful to you if ever, I'll just say kind of you're called to do one because I do believe it kind of turns into a calling as part of our spiritual journey. And then I'm going to talk about the topic of fear. And we're really going to get into that today because I have been recently, in the last month, my upliftment in March all had to do with my fears, my big fears coming up. And actually, it's kind of started this whole year, but it really rubber met the road these last couple weeks. And I'll share a little bit of that with you. And I really want to help you kind of unpack the whole topic of fear. And I have some information that has been brought through to me that I will also share with you. But anyway, I'm Carolyn Zaiser. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channeled messages and information for you that includes practical advice for your awakening and ascension and life journey. So, like I tell everybody, take what resonates, toss the rest aside. So hopefully today you'll take away a puzzle piece or two for the puzzle of your own journey. So with that, I'm just going to start right in and tell you a little bit about how the cleanse ended up for me. So just as a quick overview, I did the 9-day simplified medical medium cleanse out of his Cleanse to Heal book. And my previous experience with cleanses, over the last couple of years have like kind of every day done celery juice for 6 months, and then I moved straight to lemon juice water in the mornings. I still do that every single morning as a cleanse, but I've never done an extended cleanse over a period of days, which essentially changes your whole diet. So as I had said in the last video, it was like a Rubik's Cube moment. Click, 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 click. The universe put everything together. It was right in front of me, and I chose to do it. And in 2 days, I had all the food made and was ready to roll. But again, I think you'll be called to it if you're meant to do it. What I would say to you is, because I've received what I really feel is some massive start of some upliftment for me, which with this cleanse, and it's part of the journey, and I was really called to it. So what I would say to you is, don't think like, oh, she did a cleanse, so now I need to go do one too. I don't think that's how this cleanse works, or these cleanses, because it's the medical medium. And he also said these are spiritual cleanses, and I kind of went, I don't get that. I mean, I didn't get that. And he made some reference in the book to, if you are wondering how to get started on your spiritual journey, know that you're on your spiritual journey if you're doing this cleanse. And I was like, okay. Anyway, I have had a powerful impact, I believe, and it's kind of internal. You know, a lot of these things in the awakening journey are very hard to describe. But I'm going to try to do the best I can for you. But the number one thing I would say to you is, you know, lots of times we think just because somebody's doing something, oh, I'll do that too, and then I'll get that same effect or that upliftment. I think it will happen to you if it's meant to happen to you, honestly. In a kind of, they always call it a Rubik's Cube moment, and they're saying to me, use the Rubik's Cube, where, you know, somebody who really can do the Rubik's Cube, and it goes, and then it's done. That's how the universe works lots of times when we're having these big things that are needed to shift and change, and the universe pops in and goes, we're changing this now, or we're doing this thing now, and the human comes together to do the action, right? And it's almost like you're just being led well, you are being led, and by the time you've actually done the thing, you kind of look back and go, oh my God, that was all put together for me. And I know you all have had these moments, so I do believe these are designed for us, as well as if you do a cleanse. Now, you can go do one anytime you want, right? But I think you'll be called to it. Okay, so enough of that. Okay, so it's a spiritual cleanse. Talked about that. I've got some notes here I'm just looking at as a part of the journey. Here's the other thing. I think one of the things that I was able to do with this cleanse is I was like, oh my gosh, I see how this fits into my story. Remember how I've always talked about This isn't just, oh, I'm spiritually awakening. This is part of your story. And you're able to start seeing the process that you are going through. And I think it's really important to be able to go, oh, that happened, then this happened, and oh my gosh, I rolled into this, and over the years. Like understanding our journey from a kind of a global perspective, but then obviously we're living it day to day. But we see these big windows of time where something is happening for us. Then we have what I call upliftment, which March was a huge time for this opportunity for upliftment. Now remember, like I said, it doesn't always feel like upliftment, right? But it is, because we're clearing out. We're clearing out. And with the cleanse, clearly you're clearing out, right? Toxins and heavy metals and all the stuff we've done to ourselves with the foods we eat and, the whole industrialized process. But anyway, so the cleanse is part of that upliftment that I was to go through for March. Now, like I said, not the things we go through to get that upliftment that we did in March. I've talked to a lot of you. They have not been, I don't want to say, they're not easy. They're not like, oh, upliftment, joyful and wonderful. It's kind of arduous as we're going through it. But then when we come out the other end, it's like, okay, now I get what's going on here. So this is part of launching us into this idea then of freedom for April, which I'm going to talk a bit about, because we're going to talk about fear and how fear keeps us from that freedom, okay? And I'm going to give you some exercises. But anyway, so with respect to the cleanse, I think it is part of the story. All these pieces, it helped me kind of put together, oh, I see why this happened now, okay? Like now in this time in my journey, not, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. There's a lot of things well, a good example is I no longer drink alcohol. Like September, I think, was when I was on vacation with my mom, I had a beer. I mean, and I was a weekend drinker. Like my whole life, Friday and Saturday nights, I had a couple drinks every Friday and Saturday night, but I can't do it anymore, and it doesn't feel right. So this cleanse comes at 6 months later. It's just real interesting to start to chart kind of your journey, even if you do it in your head. So some of the learnings that I had, and these are practical things, okay? First of all, like I said, it was a Rubik's Cube moment for me where you got to kind of prepare your food, and suddenly all of a sudden in a day I had, or two days I was ready to go. I had made certain things that I then decided I was going to eat mostly during the 9 days, okay, of the cleanse. Now you can be more diverse too, but it is literally this. It is literally this. And I'm not kidding. There's nothing outside of this. Fruits, any combination of fruits, vegetables, pure spices, pure herbs. Now when I say that, it's not like you can go buy a grilling mix and use it, because you can't have salt. Pure spices, pure herbs, maple syrup, honey, millet, or oats. I'm pretty sure I'm not missing anything else at all. In fact, I know I'm not. That's it. That is literally it. Any combination you can do of all that. And so what you will find, depending on your diet and where you're at today, it can be from very arduous to, hey, this is okay. Now, where I was at on the spectrum of my eating habits prior to this was I was doing pretty healthy. I don't eat meat. I don't eat chicken, beef, or pork. I don't drink milk. I kind of like my cheese, and I do like sour cream. But so that all had to go by the wayside. But I don't need that, right? I know that too. Anyway, oils I found was one of the things that I missed the most, which is so bizarre. But you don't realize how much oil is in the food we eat. The meals were tasty. I would say that thank heavens for potatoes, lemons, and maple syrup. But and you can eat, the oatmeal has to be gluten-free, just so you know that. But and yet, if you're doing it, you're going to get the Cleanse to Heal book, so you'll have to follow that. But anyway, my point in this is it's arduous depending on where you're at in your current diet, or it's not. Okay. So you'll just have to kind of see how that goes for you. For me, it was pretty simple to move into, but the weird thing is it not weird. One of the things that highlights, that's what I'll say, what this cleanse highlights, like nobody's business, is all of a sudden your true self says to you, See, notice you're eating too much of this. Like you're able to like look under from further away. Like you're not eating the same things all day, so you're further away from it and you're like, oh my gosh, like cashew butter. I eat it every breakfast and I eat a lot of it. It's made by our co-op, it's fantastic, and I eat way too much of it, but I eat it every morning. I have for years on toast. Anyway, I know that's not great for me. I know it's not. It's actually called a radical oil or radical fat. And I'm like, oh boy, okay. So anyway, talk about highlighting the 9 days, because I was able to be the observer to what I had been eating. Which is, remember, we talk about space in between the things that happen to us before we take the emotional action or before we act on the emotion, how far away you are from the thing. And so what happens is you're not eating that, so you're able to observe it, and it highlights it. I'm going to tell you that right now. It highlights it. And I'm like, I got to change that up. So what I have done is now I do oatmeal every other day, and I do half the amount of cashew butter. So I've really cut back, but I'm still eating it, but only every other day. So again, to your point, it really highlights the areas that you have to focus on. There was something else that I focused on. Oh, the other thing was, and this is not great, I don't eat fruit. Not that I don't like it, I don't desire it, so I don't eat it. And so now I have fruit back in my diet because it's amazing. But I have to make myself eat it. It's real weird, other than wild blueberries that I've been incorporating in the last few months. But anyway, really highlighted, like, again, I'm the observer, and my soul self is saying to me, much louder, I will say, you need fruit. You need fruit. And I also know where I've been putting too much into like chips and things like that. So what I would, to just give you those examples for me, it's the observer effect with this, because you're further away from it and you're like, whoa. So I've really made a huge adjustment. I don't want to say a huge adjustment. Yeah, I'm struggling right now, I guess I will just say. It's a week and a half out, and I'm trying to find that balance, but I'm also seeing where I need to make sure cooking more is the thing, or at least making some things that I can go to rather than picking things up that are pre-made. Okay, so what else do I want to tell you about this? Okay, I also lost 9 pounds in 9 days. I'm not kidding. I didn't even think of this as a weight loss program, but it is. And 9 pounds in 9 days, it just happened. I didn't try. I hardly exercised too, because you're a little weaker. And that is something I would like to, I feel so much better, keep up, but I've put 3 pounds back on. So again, I know why. I know what I've done. So like this really highlights the areas that you need to clean up. It really highlights it. And like, I don't want to screw this cleanse up. Not that you can screw it up, but like I've cleansed, right? But we continue to be in this environment, right? And we continue to eat and take things in and breathe and all of that, right? But I do know that I did this for purpose, and I want to make some significant changes for myself, but I am struggling this weekend, I will say. Let's see, what else? I think, the 7th day I was kind of over it, but I really wanted oils, which was so weird, like, oil, just any kind of oils, right? But again, I could talk all day long about the oils that aren't good for you, like canola and soy and all that, but I don't eat those. But I was just needing that for some reason. Other than that, what I would say to you is that's a real highlight of it. I am going through a transformational process, and the cleanse is a part of this. I know it's uplifting me into a new part of my work, which I'll tell you more about down the road when I actually implement it, because it's going to be a process of me doing that. But I have it in my head, and I'm already starting to form it up. But this is all part of the cleanse is all part of this. And so, again, you'll be called to this, but I wanted to finish this up because I said I'd come back and tell you what it was like. And I guess that's it. So I want to launch into the conversation about fear. Without going into all my detail, I have had put in front of me 2 of my biggest fears, one of which I did not know about. Now you're going to ask, how could that possibly be? Oh, well, if you take into account past lives that we don't know about, right? We don't know this. They start roaring to the surface, but it usually comes in the form of fear. You're not going to be able to say, oh, that was a past life, necessarily. I mean, that's a thing that I do because that's part of my channeling, right? I can assist you with that and help you understand it more, and that's a lot of what I do in my sessions. But the average person, and even me for my own self, I don't pick up on all my past lives. Are you kidding me? But I can tell you right now that a lot of our fears that we have are rooted in past lives, particularly when you're like, why do I fear this? There's no underlying cause in this lifetime. And believe you me, those exist. I'm going to tell you a little bit about mine. So one of mine is the financial construct that I've talked about for some time. The whole money thing, right? We all are going to be faced with the financial construct, typically all of us. It's a biggie because we've created that as a thing to hold us in fear, and hold us down. Because remember, well, I don't know if I've said this before, but I've been having a conversation with my team a lot because I've been in a lot of stress lately. And it just been under a lot of stress. Not so much for the financial part. That's kind of an ongoing thing that I'm releasing fear of. And I've been doing a really good job of that. But the new one that came in, I'll tell you about here in a second. But what they have told me is that fear of any type is what holds us fast to the human world and the old energies, the old earth, the grip that it has on us. Is it any wonder that whenever you're out reading the news, oftentimes social media, listening to your politicians, all that, I mean, the whole thing is about fear, and people do it too. We whip ourselves up over causes, and I'm not saying, being for or against a particular cause isn't the thing to do, but I am going to tell you, when it's based in fear, a fear reaction, that's a heavy, they tell me it's the number one heaviest thing that keeps us from advancing in our spiritual journey. So we are all here to break through fear, bottom line, okay? This is part of the journey. I don't think I've ever really talked about it like this before, but because I've been going through this, I know I'm supposed to teach it. And of course, you need to frame it up for however makes sense and works for you. So for me, I have the financial construct. Most of us always have that, right? I have, my situation is there's just things that have come up. Like, I am not kidding you, since November, I've had to put in a new furnace. So there's multiple other things going on here. Remember, it's not always just one thing. I'm also shoring up my foundation. We've talked about that, shoring up our foundation. I had to put in a new furnace. I've had PT on my leg. You can just add up the dollars here. You can only imagine. I've had like 10, 12 episodes back then of PT where I had to pay my deductible. I then have my cat has an unexpected surgery, big time too, by the way, which then leads into something I'm still dealing with now and paying lots of money to the vet to try to get a digestive issue taken care of. Yeah, all since November. But then it goes on to be also where I've had to have it goes on and on. My chimney looked at. I've also had, I know I'm forgetting some things. And then, guess what? I had to get towed a couple weeks ago from Trader Joe's parking lot because we thought it was just a jump and need a new battery. Nope, it wasn't even just that. I got towed and I had to get taken to the dealer. And guess what? It's the alternator too. So add that up. So I have been bam, hammered over the financials, literally from November till now. And November till now. I have transformed dramatically from that fear that I had, because that fear, we know how that feels. That fear comes up and it freezes us. It locks us up. We all know how that feels, right? And it holds us down, and we all have our own, if we're attuned to ourselves, and remember that's what this journey is about, attuning to ourselves, turning inward, understanding ourselves, our reactions, our fears, all of this. When we turn all of that in on ourselves and we get all wound up, we tighten up and we freeze. And guess what? The universe has a very difficult time of getting to us because we're in a low vibration. All right? Remember, this is all about vibration, higher vibration matching the universe and coming along for the journey. But this is part of the process, is facing our fears. And then what do we do with them? We've got to release them. We've got to have trust and faith. We have to have trust and faith that we are being led through this for purpose, that we are clearing this, okay? Because that's what we're doing. We're clearing our fears, all right? It doesn't mean it's just going to happen once. I will tell you that, because kind of you get a big, well, this has been my experience. Well, this isn't really true. Okay. What I have found is I have a series of things that have happened to, like, kind of boom. How do you feel about this financial construct? How do you feel about this? Like, it's not enough to just do it once and done and like, oh, I kicked that. I don't have a money worry at all, or concern, or whatever at all. No, that's not how it works. It'll come back, right? Remember I told you about the dust in the corners? You know, you're cleaning your room. This is a metaphor. And all of a sudden you're cleaning, and then all of a sudden, guess what? Oh, you come back and you go, oh, I got dust in the corners. That's what this is. Okay, so what'll happen is these little fears will keep, depending on how deep they are, because a lot of us have all this stuff from past lives that we don't understand and realize, and we've all had the same thing in this journey. Or we can have something brand new pop up, which I'm going to give you here in a minute, so you kind of have an example of how this might work for you. And then what'll come up down the road is more examples for you to go, okay, now what did I learn from that first one? Oh, I came out of that okay. Okay, trust and faith. It may look a little different than you expect, but you know, the universe has your back. You know, you're doing your work. You're doing what serves you. All of those kinds of things. As you're doing that, we get that upliftment. And in fact, it's probably a good time for me. Well, let me keep going, because I want to tell you the other one. So we have those. I have that financial construct one. A lot of us will have that. And that's kind of a global thing for a lot of people, but we also have our personal fears, right? Like our super personal fears, like what we might think are little things. So you're going to have, and I'm going to ask you to do a deep dive, your little personal fears, and then the big global ones that I kind of feel like as we mature in this process, they hand those to you and say, oh, you know, the big global things that you can't control at all, like Mother Nature, all those kinds of things, we're going to give you that too. Because guess what? It's about trust and faith. It's about letting go. It's about surrendering. It's about allowing what is, accepting what is. And it is so hard. But it is one of the most powerful things we can do in this journey, is to be able to do that. To be able to surrender in the face of our fear. And I've been going through that with the financial construct part of this, right? But so we'll have these personal ones, and then we have these bigger global ones. So I've had another one come up recently. It has to do with the weather. Any of you that know that I live in Iowa, we've had an outbreak of horrible storms on the 31st of March. And then guess what? The following Tuesday, it happened again. The exact same weather pattern. Well, my area of Iowa, like, literally threaded the needle on both sides were the storms. Now, the whole thing kind of became quite a bit lesser than, at least for us. I know my friends to the south didn't have that situation. But for us, we threaded the needle and the storms went this way because it was a massive front. If many of you may have been involved in it. Needless to say, weather showed up for me. Oh my God. And this has never happened. I've lived in Iowa all my life. I've dealt with storms. We had a tornado hit here in 2005, started a block away from me. And I was up here watching TV going, oh, I guess I should go to the lower level. I mean, not freaked out. Well, the blizzard came in December, and I was confronted with the most massive fear I've ever had. We were to have 20 to 30 below weather, wind chills that added to that. We were to have a massive blizzard. It was not going to be good. A lot of power outages could happen, the whole thing, right? Not good. We know how the winter's been for a lot of places. My fear was off the charts, and I kept going, what's wrong with me? This isn't me. This isn't. I was over preparing. I had literally like everything prepared for under the sun, which also was how the furnace thing came up, okay? Which was supposed to happen. Remember, these things come up for multiple reasons, and if we're attuned to our journey, okay, our signs and our messages, we're doing the work, tuned to the journey, you start seeing this. I'm like, oh God, okay, this is all a sign for me to just get my furnace. I mean, it's 30 years old, right? It was a Lennox, it's doing great, but they don't make parts for it anymore. If it goes out, guess what? I have no furnace. So, in the dead of winter, after this blizzard, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I am so fearful that I wasn't going to have a furnace. I got them in, redid the furnace, the whole bit. That's how we end up with the furnace expense, which is part of the financial thing, right? So you see how this all comes together. And we are in a time now where this is happening rapidly. I will tell you this. It is happening rapidly, especially 2023, okay? These things are coming up rapidly, and they have multiple connections if you can make them. So needless to say, I was in massive fear. I even bought things that later on, I look back, I'm like, why did I buy this for this? I mean, like, oh my God, I was so scared. I was so scared. And here's the thing, and this is kind of part of it. It's like my little arrogant ego. For a long time, I've actually articulated this a couple times that, I'm pretty fearless. I've probably said it on a video before. I'm pretty fearless. Well, am I? Oh, am I really? I don't think so. I think I'm fearless with some things. And I mean things that we're confronted with. I don't mean choices we make to go jump out of an airplane and parachute. I would not do that. But facing our fears kind of thing. Well, I just didn't think I had any until, guess what? They were here. They were here. The financial part, that's been a journey since for me, and you're going to see this in your own journey. That's been a journey for me, and yet I've been taken care of since I left the corporate world. Dozens of years in it, making a fine living, and then quitting and starting my own business. Well, anytime anybody starts their own business, especially a sole proprietor, guess what? You're shifting your financial status in some way until maybe you're not down the road, right? But anyway, my point is, and plus I support myself. So there's all that to consider, right? So I've had quite a journey. That had to come up. It had to come up. I cannot carry heaviness of the financials into this awakening journey and expect to become lighter and be able to move into the higher vibrations where there is no fear. And again, I go back to, this covering we have over all of us collectively. We have fear. We're cloaked in fear, but each one of us, guess what? We're finding our way out of it, right? We're like, see that hole, we see that light. We're like, no, I'm not doing this. Okay, I'm not staying here, everyone. Bye. And we do our work. So it's about facing what shows up. It's about facing what shows up. And it's not about going, okay, that's over. Okay, I'm just going to, whatever. I'm not going to really look at that. Yeah, I had a little fear. Nope, it's not that. It's spend time with it. It's spending time with it. Well, I had to spend time with it because I was faced with a blizzard. And I was so wrapped up. I thought, one of my first things was, I can't live like this. I thought, if I live in anticipation of a storm that's going to devastate things for me, that's not living. And so again, this went back to faith and trust. This is me working with my team. This is me saying, I let this go. I let this go. I have had a massive transformation with the financial part. But the weather, which is tied into the financials, is a whole nother ballgame. It's one of those global ones. I can't really control that. Yeah, maybe I can control my financial life. I can't control the tornado walking down the street, right? I cannot control that. What am I going to do? Am I going to just run in fear? Yes, I did that March 31st. I then have another weather event. This time it's the really bad storms that swept across the country and ran through here, and my community was hit. Unfortunately, I think we had 4 tornadoes just in our county alone, with dozens of tornadoes around. Anyway, point being, I did it again. I over-prepared, but I don't know, can you over-prepare for a tornado? What do you do, right? I don't have a basement, so I am like prepared to the hilt. I was ready to go, and I was frozen in fear. Like I'm feeling it right now. I can feel it, it's awful. It's awful. And I do realize we're all at different degrees of living with fear. Some of us live like that all the time. Okay? I do realize that. But what I'm asking you to do is really take a good hard look at your fear, and I'm going to ask you to do an exercise. I could go into a whole ton of detail with it, but I'm just going to give you kind of the top level, here, try this out kind of thing. Because who wants to think about their fears? We don't. We don't think about our fears at all, but I think it'll prep you a bit because they're going to come up. Here's the thing. They're going to come up. You can't go through this awakening journey. We can't go through this ascension journey. We can't get to where we're meant to get to as a collective without our individual fears being confronted. We're supposed to be living in peace. We're supposed to be living in flow. You can't live in flow with fear. We're supposed to be living in a trusting relationship with our higher power, with the universe. And that, like they said, accept what is. Okay, so the whole weather event for me was a massive recognition of something's up here. But it didn't have any relationship to this lifetime, right? Like the financials did, okay? It didn't have any relationship to this lifetime. Like, what has happened to me? I feel like I'm getting worse instead of improving in this spiritual journey, especially in 2023. Everything's coming up. It's just like, I feel like I'm just vomiting fear, like vomiting my fear. And I mean, that's probably the best way to think about it because it's just one thing after another. And I'm waking up in the middle of the night with fear about things, little things. And I've got to work on all these. I've got to work on all these. But I'm tackling the weather right now, right? So as it turns out, last Tuesday, which was the day the second storm came through, and I tell you my stories because it helps you kind of hopefully understand how it might play out for you or what it may have looked like for you and you didn't really realize at the time. Anyway, I happened to have an energy healing, distance energy healing with my energy healing practitioner who I use. I wrote her and I said, I am wrapped up in fear. We have another storm coming through later today. And I can tell I'm out of my body and I'm not me. Anyway, I said, if you can help ground me, blah, 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 whatever. She writes me back afterwards. She goes, you have multiple past lives that are related to massive storm events that impacted you. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And all along during the day, my team, because I'm very connected to them, they're like, it's okay. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Trust us. You're going to be fine. This is not your journey to have another event with a storm. This is not your journey. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. So needless to say, she said multiple past lives. I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense because I didn't have any frame of reference for it in this lifetime, right? It was making zero sense for me. And so those are the ones that are really kind of trippy in the sense that it's like when you can wrap yourself around some kind of foundational understanding of where it comes from, it's a lot easier. Because you can start to understand, right? I wasn't able to understand, but I knew that I needed to let go. The point is we have to, regardless of what it is we're dealing with, our fear, whether it's an action we know we need to take for our greater good, but we just stay in status quo because it's safer, right? Because we're scared, because we're fearful. So we can't hold on to that fear. We can't, regardless of what it is. Like I said, if it's something we know in our personal lives that we need to do, we need to make a change, we need to make a shift. So many of us don't do it because we're scared of the unknown. Bottom line, it's fear. We don't know what it's going to look like. But that's all about the trust and faith, right? That's what this is about. This journey is about that, surrendering and having trust and faith. And we will get opportunity in our journey over and over and over again to clear our fear. And a lot of these things are little personal decisions we make each day. We have things in our work. We have things in our personal lives. We have, relationship decisions. We have the financials, right? But then we have the big global things, like for me with the weather. Like, I can't control that. Well, guess what? I can't control that. I can take certain action for these big global things that aren't so personal, I'll just say, that maybe we haven't chosen to get involved in and do and get ourselves into, right? But I can choose to surrender and let go, right? There might not be an action to take. Yes, I can to take precaution, but I can choose to surrender and let go and practice that, practice that faith, right? when we have the personal situations of things we have to take action on, that's where we're really tested too, because what happens oftentimes is we know what we need to do. And I'm going to just use a relationship, for example, because a lot of us have had situations in relationships where we know we need to leave the relationship. It's not working. But because it's comfortable in a sense and could be miserable, but it's still what we know, it's safe in that way, we stay. And we don't take the action that actually serves us, and we stay living in our fear. Okay? Because ultimately what we're really doing, we're staying living in our fear. But when we release beyond that, and we make the decision that serves us, that we know deep in our gut, that feeling, and we move into the next stage and we make the choice that is right for us, guess what? We release the fear. I mean, we let fear go because we made the decision. Now, yeah, we may have moments of like, oh God, this is kind of scary. I'm like single for the first time in my life or whatever. Or, I no longer have a relationship and I'm on my own and having to move out of it into a new house. Whatever it is. Yeah, there's those little fears, but when it's that action is taken, you have now said, I'm leaving fear behind. Okay? So fear is everywhere. You can find it in everything when we make choices. But when we make choices that serve us, that are for our greater good, that are our gut knowing and intuition, guess what? We fly and fear goes the other way. So here's something that I want to read. This got channeled through to me while I was going through my trauma. This has been going on a long time, and I knew I was going to do a video on this, but I wanted to wait until I really kind of had a sense of like, more like the observer. I had a little distance. I was being able to go, oh, okay, and I'm not done with this. Are you kidding me? I mean, we're just into our tornado season here, just starting. I know I'm going to get another opportunity. And I learned so much this last time around, so much. I had so many signs and messages, so many. They were just all over me to help me understand I was going to be okay. But we're going to get opportunity over and over again to practice this. And I'm certain there will be other fears that will come up. I'm having some in the middle of the night that I'm waking up to that are starting to be a pattern. Understand we are in a time of great transformation. Remember, April is freedom. Okay, it sounds wonderful. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have freedom of something. Well, the journey's not that easy. It may not be easy. Freedom from fear, not easy. But when the freedom comes and you've done the work and you've made the choices in your journey that serve you, oh my gosh, the other side is so beautiful. But we do this in stages. It's not just a one and done. So keep this in mind. Now I want to pretty much leave this with you, because I just think this is so well said. And I actually wrote it down because they channel a lot through me while I'm just kind of out doing my garden or whatever. And I'm like, why do you do this now? I could have written it down, but I wrote this one down. When you make the tough decisions in life that are out of your comfort zone into what you truly feel is right for you and serves you, even if it's hard, then the universe will uplift you and support you. Fear is the one thing that keeps us held in place, tethered. So, I wanted to share that with you because the universe is here. Spirit, God, whatever you want to call your higher power. And we are that spark of the divine. That higher power is in us. And that's what we have to understand. We are powerful beings. And we can conquer our fears. Fear is the biggest thing that is the collective gray blanket over us. And what I would ask you to do, again, I'm going to leave you after this, because this has gotten kind of long, but I think it's so worth it. Can you see this? I'm sorry, nothing's fancy when I do things. So remember the hub and spoke model. Here's what I want you to do if you find the calling, or keep it in the back of your mind if you want to do it. Your hub is fears, all kinds of fears. And then what you can do, and I'm in the process of doing this for myself, you create little hubs, okay? One is, I don't even know, one of them says relationships. You can then create little spokes. I should have drawn those little other hubs off the side, like relationships. Which relationships do you fear? Where is there fear? Not that do you fear, but where is there fear in them? Okay, right? Like, let's say you've got a shaky relationship going on with your significant other, and you've been off and on for a while, and you're realizing, deep inside that it's right for you to move on. Okay, so that's probably going to be maybe a highlighted one when you put all the relationships that you have some kind of fear around, but where are the biggies? Just like the hub spoke model I did previously, you're going to identify where the biggies are to focus on. Because what's going to happen is these are going to come up at some point. At least you're going to know, but you may have some come out of the blue. Like for me, weather, financials, okay? We then have, what's this? Global situations, that'd be my weather, right? Like I wouldn't put that down had I not known, had I not had this come up. So some of these things you're not going to know. But do the hub spoke model, and then then create, like with relationships, what are the ones off there? Like, where is there some kind of fear? And remember, it's not just one kind of fear. It may be a fear of inaction. You can't take action but why aren't you taking action? Is it because you fear? You have to analyze this. You have to think deeply, because this is part of our problem as humankind. We just kind of cursorily look at things and go on our way. Nope, you can't do that in this journey because it's going to pop up. So the more you do the analytical analysis, deep digging into this, the more you're going to be served and you're assisted along the way when these things do pop up. I will guarantee you that most of you have already faced a lot of fears. And I would say that if you didn't consider it a fear, go back and look at it and go, wait a minute. Yeah, that didn't feel good. And that's how I felt before. And then I did this. And oh my gosh, I got uplifted and supported. We are in the upliftment time. We are in the freedom time. And we all are freeing ourselves from some kind of fear, right? Along with freedom from other things. But ultimately, if you take a look at your journey, I'm going to bet you that the choices you're making and the decisions you're making, the choices you're making, the path you're paving forward, if you're on that and you've made those choices, you made the decisions, things are feeling good for you, you can look back and go, oh my gosh, I stayed in this, or I didn't do this because I was holding on to something that was comfortable, even if it wasn't good for me, right? It's a fear of letting go of like the unknown. So kind of think of it like that, if you will. I really suggest you do this. You don't have to do it all at once. You can do little by little. But I would really also, and hopefully this is a tool for you moving forward as well, because as something shows up, it's all going to show up in your gut and your feeling and the heavy chest so again, this is the inner journey of the spiritual awakening and the ascension journey, the inner journey. Know your feelings, know yourself, know thyself. We've talked a lot about that. Know thyself so that you can identify, oh God, this is a fear. What's going on here? Wait a minute. What is happening here? I need to sit with this. I need to understand this. Maybe you want to journal it. Maybe whatever it is you do, you got to take time for yourself. Because otherwise what's going to happen, you're just going to run through the whole fear thing and you're going to blindly either make decisions about the thing, or you're going to be so out of your body, you're not going to connect in with what's really going on and you're not going to learn from it. Okay? So, I think that's it. I hope you've taken something away from this today. This is such a huge topic for us as a collective. Fear is the one thing that is holding us down in so many ways. And it looks different. It looks different. And I could go on and on about different examples of fear when on the surface it kind of doesn't look like fear, but it ultimately is about fear and how people are acting. All right? And we want to be able to understand that within our own individual self and our own individual examples. All right, everybody, I think that's it today. Hopefully, like I said, you've taken a nugget away or two for your own journey, a puzzle piece or two for your own puzzle. And with that, check out purplerainhealing.com, because I help you through these things and assist you in your journey forward with practical advice and channeled information. Channeled individual sessions, spiritual awakening mentoring, where we continue along talking to you about your soul journey, which you get in all of the sessions. And then we start unpacking a lot of the things that you want to work on, making your journey smoother. So I would absolutely love to work with you. I've worked with so many of you, and I thank you so much for your viewership and also for working with me. So hopefully more of you will join me as well, and I'll get to meet you too. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.